What's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Poor Man's Bonsai. This is a video that I've been wanting to do for a little while, and basically what I wanted to do was make a video explaining some of the basic tools that someone might need if they're first getting into the hobby. Now, immediate disclaimer, this is not going to be an exhaustive list. This is just going to be some basic stuff that kind of came to mind for me when I think of getting into the hobby. And another disclaimer is when you think of bonsai, they can range from tiny to massive. So some of these tools aren't going to work for all of your needs, but these are some good, just solid tools to start with when you're getting into bonsai, to particularly work on some smaller sized trees. But what I wanted to do was last week I actually ordered a few different items from Amazon so that they're easily accessible. Hopefully you're in an area where you can order from Amazon. And what I'm going to do throughout this video is show these different items, and I'll put links in the description below so you could check them out yourself. But I just wanted to show how on a budget you could get some essential tools and things that you might need to get into the hobby and not feel like you have to break the bank. So all of the things I'm going to show you today came into just under $40, which is awesome because getting into any hobby, sometimes it could be a lot of money up front. Now again, this isn't an exhaustive list, so there might be some other stuff you need to add on to that, but even still, $40 plus, you know, a few bucks here and there, it's a pretty low budget to start a new hobby with. So hopefully this video is helpful for you, and maybe you're already into the hobby, and so hopefully even just seeing some of these items will maybe give you some new ideas or some alternative ways to go about doing the hobby to save a little bit of money here and there. So let's just jump right into it and start looking at some of these items. And one more thing before we get into it, I'm actually going to repot a few plants later on in this video using these items I'm going to show you. So stick around for that to see them in action. So the first item that comes to mind when I think of someone getting into bonsai is definitely just a good old pair of shears. Now this is a smaller pair, so again, these are going to work for some smaller plants and whatnot, but I got these for $6.99 on Amazon. Again, I'll have the link in the description below so you can check that out. But these are awesome. These are just simple. They're spring action, which I love. They bounce back quickly, and it's just a nice solid pair of shears. I haven't used them yet, but again, I'll use them later on in this video when I repot a few plants and show you how they work. But yeah, just a good old pair of shears. And I would say too, it's often good to maybe even buy a couple pairs, because sometimes you might want to have some that are saved just for working on branches and another pair that's saved maybe working on roots, because sometimes when you're trimming roots, the dirt and the soil and whatnot can wear the blades out a little bit faster, but also certain types of wood can do the same thing. So but you know, at $6.99 you can grab a handful of these and you're not breaking the bank. But yeah, a nice little pair of shears. I would say this is a must-have item when getting into bonsai. All right, and the second item that I have here is this kind of general all-purpose garden wire. Now you can buy some high-end bonsai wire, but it can get kind of pricey. So I actually like finding this garden wire. I particularly like using stuff like this that has plastic coating on it, so I don't have to worry about different metals sort of seeping into the soil. But yeah, this was also $6.99 on Amazon. So again, link in the description below. You can check this out. So so far between the shears and this, two items at $6.99, still nice and budget friendly. And this is awesome, just all-purpose wire and it's fairly stiff, so you can do a decent amount of branch bending as well. You might need to double it up at times, but wire is really important when repotting bonsai. You'll see later on in the video, because it allows you to anchor the plant into its new pot so that it doesn't fall over as the roots are establishing. So again, just a simple spool of wire. This is a pretty good amount, and this will last a long time. I don't remember exactly the length of this, but I know this will last me for a very long time. So it's a good investment, pretty affordable. All right, so the next item that comes to mind when I think of someone getting into bonsai is a bonsai pot. Now, these are plastic. These are not high-end. I actually bought a pack of 15 of these for $15.59, so killer deal. And they still look nice from a distance, which is cool. They have that kind of shallow, typical bonsai pot look, but you're not breaking the bank. And for someone just getting into bonsai, maybe they don't want to stick with it forever. So this allows you to invest in a good amount of pretty nice looking pots to see if you really want to stick with it or not. But I think they look awesome, really great for training plants, and you know, maybe it's not the fanciest looking showpiece pot, but they look nice and I really like them. And what's cool about the center of these is that they actually have built-in mesh over the holes, so you're not going to have a lot of soil seeping out the bottom when you water it or when you first put soil in it. But this will actually lead me to my next item, and that is these mesh pads. Now these mesh pads are super important for when you are repotting bonsai, because these allow you to place it over the drainage hole in a pot so that soil doesn't fall out. Now again, these ones have it built in, but the gaps are actually a little bit wider on this one, so I could even still use this really fine mesh and place it over the top of this hole, and it'll keep soil from falling on the bottom. Now if you have some other types of pots, like maybe terracotta or some kind of clay pots like this one actually has a pretty big hole on the bottom, so this is absolutely crucial that you use some of these mesh pads, so that, I mean, that hole would be way too big, soil would just be falling all out of that. So these pads are really crucial. They allow you to place it over there before you put the soil and the plant in here, and yeah, it keeps the soil in, and you don't have to worry about all this stuff falling out the bottom of your plant. So super important, these mesh pads. These were also $6.99 on Amazon, so great deal as well. And so again, link in the description. You can check these out. This has 100 of them in there, so I'm not going to be running out of these anytime soon, so check these out. All right, so I also wanted to take a second to talk about some bonus items that I think will really come in handy when getting into bonsai. So the first item that comes to mind is just a nice pair of needle nose pliers. Nice and simple. Hopefully you don't have to purchase one of these. Hopefully you already have a pair of these lying around the house. These are just great all-purpose tools for whatever, for life in general. These come in handy. These save the day all the time. But when it comes to bonsai, these are really helpful, because bringing the wire back into the shot here, the wire, obviously you're not going to need all, several feet of this spool, however long this is. So having just a nice pair of needle nose pliers gives you two purposes. It has most of them will have a wire cutter right in the center here, or right in the kind of the pivot point of these pliers. And so I'll just do a little example here. It allows you to cut the wire like so. But also, you'll see a little bit later, the actual pliers part of it allows you to twist the wire in place, so that you really can anchor the tree into the pot. Again, you'll see that a little bit later, but just a nice pair of needle nose pliers. Hopefully you have some lying around the house, and these will be super handy. All right, the next bonus item that comes to mind is just a simple chopstick. Now you might think, what is a chopstick going to be useful for in bonsai? They're actually very useful, because when you're repotting a plant, when you get it into its new pot, the roots are still establishing, the soil's all loose. So what this allows you to do, and you'll see this later in the video, this allows you to work that new soil in and around all the roots, so that it's nice and compact in there. You don't want to like smash it in there, but this allows you just to make sure that all the roots are making contact with soil, and it's super duper handy. You don't have to use a chopstick. You can even just use a stick on the ground, as long as it's narrow enough and stiff enough to be able to do the job. But yeah, chopsticks, super handy, and most people have them lying around, and if not, you could easily pick some up. I can even include a link in the description down below as well if that's helpful. But bonus item, chopstick. Okay, so the last bonus item that comes to mind is a bobby pin. Now at this point you're probably thinking, dude, what are you even talking about? How is this useful to bonsai? Well, it's useful because when you go to wire a tree into its new pot, very often you have to stick the wire through a single drainage hole. So what I'll do is I'll take one of these and I'll wrap my wire around it a couple times, and then that allows my wire to go through the drainage hole, and it catches on the bobby pin, so that it's anchored to the bottom of the pot, and it's nice and sturdy. And bobby pins are pretty stiff, especially with the two wires going across, like so. So you don't have to use a bobby pin. It could be a nail, it could be a real firm stick. But these are just, I find these in our restroom all the time. My wife has a bunch of these, so these have come in handy many times. But again, you can use nails, you can use other stiff things. But bobby pin, I had it, I grabbed it right before I filmed this video, so there you go. All right, so here we are. These are the items that come to mind when I think of someone just getting into bonsai. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. There are plenty other items that you could get that will totally help with working with bonsai trees. But again, these are just things that I think of would be crucial for someone who's just wanting to get into it, would really helpful for them to sort of get the basics down, do some basic repotting, working on some smaller trees. So I hope you found this list helpful. One of the things that I chose not to talk about or show you was soil, and the reason why is because there's so many different types of plants that get worked on with bonsai, and so many different plants have different soil needs. So I didn't want to say this is a general soil here that will suit all of your needs. I didn't want to do that because it really has to do with the certain plants that you're working with. So you know, whenever you're going to work on a new species, do your research, check out what soil needs they have, how much grit it needs, the drainage, all these, the acidity level, all this kind of stuff. Do that kind of research, and you know, and get the soil that you feel like you would need for that particular plant. I'm going to be using kind of this pre-mixed sort of general bonsai soil for the two plants that I'm going to repot here in a second. Both of them are pretty hardy species that I've had pretty good luck with experimenting with different soils, and they're fairly forgiving. So hopefully the soil that I use will work out fine. But again, I hope this list was helpful, and I hope that you could get into doing bonsai, and I hope that you have a blast. So let's repot some plants. All right, everyone, that wraps up our video for today. I hope you found this helpful as we've looked at some of what I would consider to be some of the basic essentials for getting into bonsai, and then even seeing these tools in action with doing these simple, really basic repottings of some plants. And yeah, I hope it was helpful. Again, you know, check out the links in the description below if there's anything in this video that you thought would be helpful to add to your repertoire of tools and accessories for bonsai. And we're always learning from each other, so if there's any essential tools that you can think of, please let me know in the comments below, and that way other people could see them too as we all kind of journey through bonsai together. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Catch you later.